So there's a super blue full moon in Pisces happening on August 30th. What does that mean in astrology? So yes, there is another full moon happening in August. It is the second full moon in the month of August, which qualifies it in a modern sense as a blue moon. Now, the thing is, what does a blue moon mean in astrology? Unfortunately, the answer is actually nothing, because originally in astrology, back in ancient Egypt, like 5,000 years ago, the calendar was lunar. It was already based on the lunar cycle. So a month would, let's say, begin at a new moon, and then you would continue until the next new moon, and then that would mark the new month. So there was really no room for blue moons to occur, because you couldn't have two full moons in a lunar month, because it was from new moon to new moon. So that's why there's not really astrological significance given to it in traditional astrology. It is still neat. It is still cool to look at. And because the moon will be closest to the earth as it can get, which is called apogee, it's going to be really big. It's going to be cool to look at. So definitely still fun to observe, definitely still magical to witness, but no traditional astrological significance to the actual blue moon thing. However, this is still a really interesting full moon in Pisces. And now I'm going to dive into the chart to really show you why. Okay, so we're going to share the screen here so that you can check out what's going on in the Luna program. So here we have the actual chart for the day of this full moon in Pisces. You can see we have the moon here in Pisces directly across from the sun, which indicates our full moon. The sun is currently in Virgo, and they are opposite each other. Now, the first thing, of course, we're going to want to point out is that when you single out the moon on this chart, it shows the other transits that are very close to it. The opposition with the sun, it is still Mercury retrograde, folks. Sorry. The opposition with the sun is obvious for a full moon. It's actually necessary for a full moon, but the other visitor in this whole interaction is Saturn, who is currently retrograde. Now, normally, a full moon in Pisces would be really whimsical, really dreamy. You might even expect to have really interesting dreams, and I would still keep an eye on that. But with Saturn here, it's also bringing a sort of level of accountability and a sort of structure or form to the formless that we've been experiencing with Saturn in Pisces already. And now this full moon is kind of high-fiving the Saturn in Pisces and saying, hey, I acknowledge and make you even more real and personal for everybody to be able to feel. What we've been noticing with Saturn in Pisces is a lot of rules coming to things that didn't have rules before, or a lot of ideals and a lot of structures coming to things that needed more structure and needed more support. So in your life, it's a great opportunity to ask yourself, where am I supporting myself well enough, and celebrate that? But also, are there any areas where I could use some more support, where I could do a little bit more for myself, or even request a little bit more for myself? So when you see this, you understand that we are consciously creating ourselves all the time. And in fact, that is the affirmation that I chose for this. I am consciously creating myself every day, because Saturn is bringing into the subconscious that element of conscious choice, that element of decisiveness into the murk or stardust even of Pisces. Saturn is bringing in this why to the what. So it's the I believe this, and Saturn is asking why. I do this, and Saturn is asking why. Does that serve you? Even if you want to look at something that you're not really happy about, you can still ask yourself, how does this serve me? Because very often, unconsciously, everything we do, we believe serves us, even if it is a form of protection from having to do something else that's uncomfortable. So belief work is another thing that I think is going to be really amazing. Meditation, guided meditation, especially if you want to try something new, or if you want to go back to a guided meditation that worked for you before and kind of revisit your roots in that sense, you can do this. And if you have belief statements that you can put into words of what you believe, understanding why you believe it is going to be very helpful. But also, if you want to continue believing it, is going to be something else. As this moon continues on, the full moon begins decreasing in light, which allows us in folk magic to begin releasing things that we do not want. So when the moon is increasing in light, you would increase things. When the moon is decreasing after the full moon and towards the new moon, you begin decreasing things as well in accordance with that. I actually teach a little bit about how to live in accordance with the two-phase moon in the course that you can find in the Modern Mystery School course selection. But for this is a really great opportunity to say, Are there any limiting beliefs I have that I no longer want? And can I release them? Belief work is also something in that course if you're interested. And also, are there any beliefs that I want to reaffirm for myself and maybe write them down on something and make them feel even more real and tangible for me so that I can remember that I believe this, so I can remember that it is supported for me and that I do enjoy being this version of myself. Either one works depending on where you're at. And of course, what you can do here is look on your chart, which has all the signs and all the houses, and look for the Pisces symbol. This little, it's supposed to be two fish, but it's like two backwards parentheses with a hash through it. If you find that in your chart and see which house it is in, so in this case, we see Pisces in the 12th house, it can be highlighting any of these numbers for you. Whichever one it does for you, for me, it's the 5th house. Whichever one it does for you, you can look up keywords for that and then find some keywords that resonate with you for the house in astrology. That would be the 12th house keywords or the 5th house keywords or the 4th house keywords. Find those, or you can actually wait until the day of the full moon, where I will be posting individualized horoscopes for all of the rising signs, which will already calculate that for you and give you some more specific things to think about in your life. Either way, this is how you can start doing your own research and start doing your own work with this full moon. It's a great time for, like I said, guided meditations. Do some brain dumps, clear out anything that's making buzzing space in your head so that it's hard to focus. Organize your thoughts into belief statements and see what they reveal, and then release any limiting beliefs that you don't want and celebrate any beliefs that you are excited about. What we have coming up after this, can see that a lot of the planets are retrograde at this point. We've got Saturn retrograde, Pluto's retrograde, Neptune's retrograde. Down here, Uranus has recently gone retrograde. Venus is about to go direct. Also, Mercury is retrograde. Mars is direct. The sun is always direct. The moon is always direct. Venus is about to go direct, and we can actually see here next direction change, September 3rd at about 9:20 p.m. If you're on the East Coast, Venus will finally go direct, which there will be a skip for, but also it's really great to celebrate that. And of course, she's going direct with this square to Jupiter, who's another person we can talk about, because Jupiter is about to follow the trend here and will also on September 4th turn retrograde. So something to keep in mind is that at the same time that Venus is picking up speed on September 3rd, Jupiter is slowing down to be able to turn backwards on September 4th. So that's some stuff that we're just looking at. Jupiter moving retrograde is just slowing down when it comes to celebrating things in life. Like maybe we're not trying to draw in as much and we're enjoying what we have a little bit more. We're kind of taking stock of where we are in life, where our abundance already lies, where that is, and how we can make space for more of it when the time is right. So those are things to keep in mind. I'm just going to do a little last check about things that are going on. And it looks like we're pretty much all set with this. Mercury is going to have the Cazimi with the sun a little bit after this. I think it's on the 5th, the Mercury and the sun catch up to each other of September. So we've got a little bit of time before that, but that is something that is coming up that I will be talking about as it happens. Of course, it's probably going to be the topic of next week's video, so you can stay tuned for that. And with that, I leave you to this really interesting new moon, or sorry, really interesting full moon that is not a blue moon traditionally, because they didn't exist, but it is a blue moon in a modern sense. It's a really cool thing that is rare for our time. So something to be able to celebrate and to be able to acknowledge and just to be able to enjoy the way Jupiter slowing down is stopping to smell the roses, and Venus getting ready to move forward is taking stock of our emotions and our values and all the beauty in our lives. I hope you do too. I hope you remember that you are consciously creating yourself every day. And if you would like to work with me more in the Modern School of Ancient Wisdom, there are courses available, but there's also a Patreon where we do a lot of cool stuff, like a monthly book club of actually reading all the texts together with the support of other students and myself. And you can work with me personally as well, but you can always find me on social media at Magic Sprechen, which is the High German way of saying speak, which is really cool. And I look forward to staying connected with all of you as we move into this. And I hope you have a very wonderful full moon.